People that watch this show are the most top-level insiders on politics in the state of Missouri. If you want to stay up to date on everything that happens in politics from Sunday to Sunday, the things we talk about here, you can know everything about them by going to MissouriTimes.com. It is the source of information for Missouri news. If you're coming into the elections, you're talking legislative session, MissouriTimes.com. You can subscribe, get all the information sent right to your phone, or just keep up with us on Twitter and Facebook. Go to MissouriTimes.com. It's on the front of the desk. It's everything you need to know how to watch This Week in Missouri Politics. Be a top-informed insider. MissouriTimes.com.
Looking to get quality insurance at a price you can afford? Now you can, thanks to CFM Insurance. CFM specializes in a broad range of farm, home, and rental property coverage. Find an agent right in your local area, as CFM is represented by over 150 independent agents throughout Missouri. For friendly, personal, dependable service from a well-respected leader in the insurance industry, visit cfmutual.com/agents and find an agent near you today.
Welcome to This Week in Missouri Politics, Veto Session Edition. We have an opinion maker panel so opinionated we had to have the whole show with them. Former Senator, former leader of the Senate, Charlie Shields. Welcome to This Week in Missouri Politics.
Great to be here.
Todd Graves, many titles, but now chairman of the Missouri Republican Party. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Victor Callahan, thank you for joining us, sir. Former state senator, former minority leader, Independence, not Kansas City, correct?
Correct.
Sean Nicholson, running the campaign for Clean Missouri, one of the most talked about guys in politics right now. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Scott.
Victor, let's talk about the special session. Sure. The governor it was relatively mundane issues he brought back. He came to the office in a really odd way, and I think maybe the special session is born of that. It looked like it's pretty professional. If they actually wrap it up in a week, that's pretty good time.
Yeah, I think in stark contrast to past veto sessions and special sessions, there was civility won out, and people genuinely had different positions, and the House overrode some vetoed items, but it was done respectfully. It wasn't hyperbole, and I would imagine that whatever issues remain, both bodies can work out. I think it was a win for the governor and the legislature for that reason, that this wasn't a big controversial battle where it became personal, where people started attacking each other, maybe in stark contrast to a very recent past.
Senator Jones, you've presided over some veto sessions. You've been a part of some that were relatively contentious. Is it the fact that this just wasn't much to fight about in these two bills?
Well, I think if you look at the history in special sessions, I mean, there's been some I've seen where the outcome was not a foregone conclusion, and those are very dangerous. So clearly, I think what took place was the governor and the legislature met. They knew what they were going to do. They got in and out all within 1 week. I think that's a big win for everybody.
These things can go haywire. We've seen those when Republicans control. We've seen them when Democrats in the past have controlled the legislature. It looks like right now you have a Ron Richard, Todd Richardson, Mike Parson, Mike Kehoe on the same page.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think they're all Republicans. I think they're working well together, and I think it was good to see.
Sean Nicholson, let's talk about, there were some vetoes the governor did,
right.
Mostly some line items and some budget things. One of them became controversial, but really what came out is the House budget chair decided he was going to have these votes. And I think if he was honest, he'd say he knew the Senate was not going to take them up, but he had them. And you watched not only Republicans, but Democrats fall in line and all vote to put the spending back in. The Senate didn't take it up. Interesting to see a good relationship between one of the rising stars, Crystal Quaid, she's on budget, with Scott Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, I was persuaded by the House position, and I thought what the chairman suggested and with the overrides, I thought that was the right thing to do. But this would have been an embarrassing first thing out of the gate for the governor to be overridden, and I think we'll see what happens over the next few months. But I think at the end of the day, the relationships in the Senate, the governor said, hey, don't embarrass me in this first veto session, and that's where we're at right now.
Victor, you've led the minority in the Senate.
Right.
How does that conversation go when they go to him and say, hey, stick with us on this, we're going to have the House position against the governor? How do those conversations really work out?
I served with Senator Shields. Most of it is based on the relationships you make and the trust of that, and you have to build those relationships for moments like that. We're talking about this special and veto. I think it was also smart of Governor Parsons not to include, we're here to talk about Clean Missouri, not to make this to keep it narrow, to keep it focused, rather than get into all these other issues, to where you also have, in the area of term limits, senators who are passionate maybe about clean Missouri that might have taken a phenomenal amount of time and been very contentious. So I think it was smart to narrow the call.
Moving forward, I mean, I do think you may have, and you may see in some hearings, a budget chairman in the House not totally on the same page with the second floor. How do you do that? How do you bring that and make peace? If they come to you and say make peace, how do you do it?
I think the legislative process, the process in Jefferson City makes peace. I mean, when you're a majority party, which we are in Jefferson City right now,
Supermajority.
by a great number, there's still going to be debates about priorities. There are regional debates, there are philosophical debates within a framework, and that's not unhealthy to have those debates. I think what Victor said a minute ago, when it breaks into the personal, that gets unhealthy. When it stays with the issues, the debate's good.
And House Budget Chairman Scott Faughn did a very good job of keeping it very issue-based. He did not, there was no personal discussed publicly. Let me ask you a question. The most contentious veto that was override was over something about critical care issues and stroke victims. You're now one of the leading healthcare executives in the state. What does that actually mean?
Well, but I'm going to go back to what you said. You know, the history of budget chairs in the House or appropriation chairs disagreeing with the second floor, even within their same party, I mean, that's not new. I mean, you go back to Chris Kelly and Mel Carnahan, it happened all the time. So that's nothing unique. I just wanted to point that out. So the issue of time-critical diagnosis is hospitals have designations of being a trauma center, different levels of trauma center, a STEMI center, a stroke center, places like that. And what happens is that EMS, they have to know where to take somebody based on those levels of designation. And the challenge was that item, that $140,000 was vetoed, probably wasn't a great thing to do. And then the department and the governor said, we'll just move things around. And I think, you know, Representative Fitzpatrick trying to, you know, say, hey, the budget, you know, restore the constitutional authority of the House. The budget's the budget. This is the way we wrote it. You vetoed it. We're not going to do that. So I think he was trying to stake out his position. But I think what's going to happen, clearly the Department of Health and Senior Services is going to figure out how to make those designations so the people will still have that access to the right place.
Is it not fair that since Thomas Jefferson appointed Governor Clark back in the day, that the legislature may want to have a budget and pass a budget, but when they leave, the governor spends the money with how he wants within some parameters?
Yeah, but I think at the same time, I have a huge amount of respect for Scott. You know, he's trying to stake out his position. He says, we control this, we budget it. You can't just move money around as you see fit.
So let's talk about something that I think is on the top of everyone's mind right now. The ballot initiative's coming up. Two big races, but maybe the most talked about ballot initiative is Clean Missouri, something that you've running the campaign for. I know you've talked about in concept for a while. Right from the horse's mouth, what does this do?
This cleans up Missouri politics. I think Missourians have watched what's happened in the state legislature over the past decade. We've experienced the Eric Greitens mess, and I think there is a bipartisan growing disgust with how Jefferson City conducts itself, and I think there is a real hunger to get things back on track.
I think once you clean it up, though, people have a disgust for politicians that aren't theirs, right? In popular life, we love Todd Richardson. We may not like the guy from Sedalia. Actually, what does this do? So lobbyist gifts?
Yeah, so it ends expensive lobbyist gifts and makes sure that the legislature follows the Sunshine Law. It says no fundraising in the state capitol. It lowers campaign contribution limits, and it ensures that in the future we have a redistricting process that ensures that no party has an unfair advantage. It maintains the criteria for compact, contiguous districts. And because it's a series of nonpartisan, desperately needed reforms, that's how we've been able to earn the endorsements from everyone from former U.S. Senator John Danforth to the League of Women Voters to the Sierra Club on down. So we have a huge coalition. We've got a bunch of endorsements because people have looked at the policy, they've looked at what's wrong in Jefferson City, and they said it's time for Amendment 1.
Hat tip for you being able to find Jack Danforth. I think it's that last gerrymandering part that I've heard Republicans talk about. It's gerrymandering if you don't like the district. It's not if you do. That is the part I've heard Republicans. The other stuff, I don't think people in Jeff City particularly care if they eliminate some of the other things. What is wrong with the part of the way the districts are drawn?
Well, the truth is this is designed, everything else is eye candy to get people to vote for it. And the real thing that the proponents of this care about, in my estimation, is changing the way that we draw districts. And I don't begrudge them that, but under the nonpartisan plan we have now, which, by the way, we have one of the leading nonpartisan plans for drawing districts in the country, the way it's done in the state legislature, contiguous and compact is the most important factor. And just the nature of the map, the Democrats can't win under that map right now, so they want to change the way that we draw the map. That's just the way it is. And the only way to do that, all the votes basically all the votes for the Democrat Party are concentrated in 2 or 2.5 areas in the inner cities of each side of the state. And the only way for them to get to a map that they think is more favorable is to break those areas up and either shoot them out into the suburbs, or Clean Missouri allows non-contiguous districts. So it is perfectly possible to have a district that's Westport and Joplin.
Yeah, right now, if you look at Claire McCaskill, she wins statewide elections, and you wonder why is the legislature a supermajority. There's probably some fundraising institutional reasons, but at the end of the day, when the Democrats are very densely populated, right up against the state lines in St. Louis and Kansas City, I think that may be a reason, no matter how you draw a map, they're going to be a little disadvantaged.
Well, they're going to be at the advantage of their district.
Yeah.
They have very concentrated voting populations, and Republicans have more of a diffuse voting population. And when you draw a district that preserves county lines, city lines, township lines as its primary purpose, which is what every state in the union, Missouri would be the outlier if we pass this bill or pass this initiative. And if you draw them that way, then they're going to, oftentimes, they're going to come up short.
Sean Nicholson, can you have a district that breaks and isn't contiguous?
No, the language is explicit in the measure that districts shall be contiguous. There was a nonpartisan fact check about this a week ago when Sandra McDowell was lying about it. This is something that it's a lie that's been repeated and it's been debunked. The language is clear as day.
Absolutely not. I mean, we're litigating this. This is completely can be non-contiguous districts.
Where's
and
that litigation at?
That guy that was not an even-handed review of that. He writes for left-wing blogs, right and left.
You don't trust the government telling you what the facts are?
I don't
the government newspaper? Victor Callahan, honest to God, to me, it looks like a good proposal, a lot of good things in it that generally people favor, and then it has maybe this part in it that's either really good politics by people that promote Clean Missouri, and you tip your hat to it if you're a political observer, or if you're a Republican, maybe you distrust the methodology. Where do you come down?
Well, I think you could have an artificial intelligence robot do our districts, and there would always be charges of gerrymandering, always charges of unfairness. It's in the eye of the beholder. In particularly hyper-partisan times, every party's going to say this. I think the parties sometimes have a myopic view of things, though. The voters out there don't always follow the model, as 2016 proved. There in 2014 in Jackson County, there was a Republican candidate who spent $500 and defeated an incumbent of a district that had been Democrat for 50 years. What I mean is the public out there, they see this as inside baseball. They see this as the parties. As far as Clean Missouri, I think it will pass. It will pass because of the gift ban.
Sure.
It will pass because of the other things. I don't think I have yet to meet a voter at their door that says the redistricting process, because again, I think it seems so it seems like it belongs to the parties, and of course the parties are always going to duel it out over that process.
Senator Shields, I mean, to me it looks like either really good politics, it's definitely good politics, it's good policy.
Well, I think there's no question the politics are right on it, because everybody always thinks there's some bill or initiative petition that is the secret sauce to fixing ethics, and it never is, because it's just a big challenge. I think the question about drawing district lines, and I'm going to kind of go with Todd. What problem are you trying to fix here? I was in the legislature when Republicans were way in the minority, and we didn't gain the majority because we got better lines. We gained the majority because we had better ideas.
And there was a nationwide shift, I think, too, in state legislatures. Republicans did well.
I think so, but even you look, and to your point, where you still have statewide Democrats that can carry rural areas. Why can't it be carried, in legislative races? Well, I don't think it's the lines. That's not the issue.
Let me ask you this. Give me a prediction. Does it pass?
Oh, absolutely.
Pass?
I don't think so.
Does your court challenge work?
I think I feel very good about where we're at in the circuit court. We've got a long way to go at this point. We should get a ruling soon.
I say it passes. Does it pass?
Oh, it passes because of gift ban and the other things. The public tends to conflate Washington and Jeff City. So the swamp mentality, you're cleaning up the swamp. Again, they won't pay attention to the part that seems obscure.
I'm going to look at my side of knowledge and says that it, not only do I think it passes, I think you think it passes, but I want you to tell me what it's going to pass by.
I think we passed with about 60%, 65%.
That seems about right, and I think no matter what, great politics. Let's talk about another political race on the ballot with you, the state auditor's race. Nicole Galloway was appointed by Governor Nixon. I think she's probably made Governor Nixon look very good with that appointment for the most part. Sandra McDowell's running. She's running a pretty spirited race. I think there's a little bit of that aggressiveness we saw from President Trump. She's not taking anything. She's firing it back.
I haven't heard much from Senator McDowell. She was called out for lying about Amendment 1. There was a fact check about that. She said, I'm not going to talk to the media for 60 days. We haven't heard much
on
from
this show last week, and I'm telling you, Victor, she came out firing.
Sure. I think generally on the auditor's race, it traditionally, like in 2006, it doesn't always follow the cycle, but if you remember, Susan Monty was elected because Cora McCaskill won in 2006. I think that race overall, very competent incumbent in Nicole Galloway. You've got a challenger, but ultimately that's going to be tied to the outcome of the U.S. Senate race.
Todd Graves, I mean, she won a statewide, I think surprised a lot of people, winning a statewide primary. Definitely been some attacks, but she's fired back, and she's even turned it to Nicole Galloway a little bit. There's been a few things where people have criticized her for transparency issues. Fair or not, she does seem to fight back.
Well, Sandra McDowell's the only person in this race that's ever won a statewide contested election at this point.
Fair
Nicole
point.
Galloway was picked by insiders. Sandra was not picked by anybody. She paid her filing fee and ran. And I think Victor's very accurate. The way the national mood goes, the way the statewide vote goes, could largely determine this race, and we like our chances.
Okay, let's put your political prognosticator hat on. Claire McCaskill wins the race. Nicole Galloway probably wins, right?
It probably does track, yeah.
Josh Hawley wins the race. Sandra McDowell may win. How much does Josh Hawley need to win by for Sandra McDowell to win?
Well, again, for insiders, we know who Nicole Galloway
Sure.
is. That's the thing. She's never been on the ballot before. Regular voters, if you polled her, probably wouldn't show hardly any name ID with her name at all. So I think
I loved having Bruce Franks on. He said, "There's a state auditor."
Yeah.
Didn't even know.
Yeah.
Most people, I think he's where most people are. Well, give me like two. Holly wins by more than 2. She wins.
I think, first of all, predicting these down ballot races, I've been a down ballot candidate,
Yep.
as you well know.
Exactly.
It's
proud
really
Butler
hard.
County coordinator
It's
back in
really
the
hard
day.
to predict, but I'd say if Holly wins by more than 2, then McDowell wins.
So what do you think? You've seen a lot of these. Sandra McDowell's got some fight in her.
Well, and I think, I had to go with Todd's to predicting, down ballot races. I mean, if we were all good at that, we probably wouldn't have figured Sandra would have won the
That's
primary.
true.
I mean, she was outspent, 5 times. I think it follows the U.S. Senate race. Although I would say, the one thing about state auditor, it's a great position to run as an incumbent because it's hard to be. I mean, you're rooting out fraud, waste, and all that stuff. I mean, that's a hard thing to screw up.
Right. Well, we'll try not to screw up segment 2 when we come back talking politics in our Kansas City studios after this.
In my state of Oklahoma, since it's become a right-to-work state, we've lost tens of thousands of jobs, and wages have gone down. I lost my job of 36 years.
Census Bureau and U.S. Department of Labor reports show that in right-to-work states, families make over $8,700 less per year, but CEOs make 361 times the average worker.
Prop A in Missouri is not what they're trying to sell you.
All across Missouri, our new car and truck dealers are building strong local economies. When you buy a car or truck in Missouri, you're helping to support over 20,000 Missouri families who rely on the auto industry for good-paying local jobs. You're also helping fund our communities, schools, first responders, and our roads because dealers generate millions of dollars in tax revenue. Missouri's automobile dealers have been the foundation of our communities for generations and for generations to come. The Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, the heart of Missouri.
Looking to get quality insurance at a price you can afford? Now you can, thanks to CFM Insurance. Select from our broad range of farm, home, and rental property coverage. Find an agent right in your local area, as CFM is represented by a network of 200 independent agencies throughout Missouri. For personal and dependable service from a company with a history of insuring the families of Missouri that dates back to 1869, visit WeInsureMissouri.com and find an agent near you today.
At Ameren, Missouri, we know what light can do. It draws people together and chases monsters away. And if you shine it in the right direction, it will light the path for the next generation, showing them what their tomorrow could look like, and spotlighting the possibilities that lay in front of them. Investing in our community by lighting the way forward. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back this week in Missouri Politics. Senator Shields, we've listed a few of your titles. One of the titles you also have is the chair of the State Board of Education. You have a full quorum now. Tell me why that matters to someone watching the show.
Well, we almost have a full slate. We still have one seat open for the 8th Congressional. But, you know, one of the things that was interesting, so we went the entire spring without being able to meet. We needed 5 to meet. We had 3. And then Governor Parson came in, and his first appointments were to the state board to give us back a quorum, so which was hugely important. The issue was that, you know, to move education forward in this state, we just weren't having that discussion, and we had to meet and have a discussion. So now, as we think, what school accountability needs to look like, we can talk about that. How to recruit and retain the best teachers so we have an effective educator in front of every student. Who's the next commissioner of education? We can finally start talking about those kind of issues.
What does the state need to do when you talk about education? When you have those teachers, what does that mean to move forward?
Well, I think, you know, one of the biggest challenges we have when you talk about teachers, so we graduate about 4,500 teachers out of our colleges and universities every year. A third of those never go into education. And then of the 2/3 that do, we lose half of them in 5 years. So that may be the biggest challenge that we have in education, is figuring out how to keep good teachers in front of the students in this state. So pay's part of it, but it's not the only issue. There's a lot of things around that.
Todd, let's talk about this U.S. Senate race, something you know a lot about. You've got staffers all over the state working. Josh Hawley looks to me like he's stringing together some pretty good weeks. I think that maybe is this the time where McCaskill, there's no rabbit to pull out of the hat, and Josh Hawley's that Big Ten style, run it up between the tackles, and he seems to just be slowly prodding forward and maybe building some momentum from it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big race, it's a big year, and we've done something from the Republican Party that we've never done before, and that's we have like 15 offices open in the state. We have 50 full-time paid staff members. That's something that we just simply haven't been able to do in the past. The door knocking is going very well, the ground game's going very well, and the national media, he's getting a lot of help from the president, and he's chipping away. It's always hard to beat an incumbent. It's never easy it's always a long shot.
And she's a great politician. She's a great vote getter.
I've known her since she was a prosecutor in Jackson and I was in Platte, so yeah.
Sean Nicholson, Claire McCaskill has a way of winning races you don't expect. Probably the best campaigner in the state.
Yeah, she has a lot of crossover appeal. I think it's going to be a dogfight to the end, and I think totally agree that it'll be super competitive into the final days.
Mr. Callahan, you're a former Jackson County senator, former Jackson County legislator. She was a Jackson County prosecutor. She has a way of winning.
Oh, absolutely. This race, the two parties are going to work the grassroots, get out, try to create energy. This race, in my mind, will be determined by a voter who voted for Donald Trump in Missouri in 2016, also voted for Jason Kander, also voted for Barack Obama in 2008. The reason I threw the Kander thing in, if you figure Senator Blunt did not mirror Donald Trump's 19-point victory, there's a voter out there that doesn't like the status quo. The reason he voted for someone other than Senator Blunt was doesn't like Washington. He or she doesn't like Washington. And I think there's a segment of voter out there that is, they've given both parties a chance, and they're kind of, wanting 7-Up, and whoever can seem like the Uncola, I think is going to appear.
Does that give Josh Hawley an advantage, though? Because he's not the incumbent.
It could. What I mean is incumbency, as of late, has been not an advantage. It's an advantage maybe in fundraising, but it's been a detriment.
Senator Shields, Claire McCaskill can get votes in places like you represented.
Yep.
I've always thought when you look at the results, she gets killed in rural Missouri, but maybe a normal Democrat gets 25%, she gets 33% in Shannon County. I always felt like she had a little bit of a firewall, but this year seems a little different. It maybe seemed like Hawley, or maybe it's just hard to run against Hawley because he's not as well known, and it's all the focus is on her.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as you said, she doesn't win rural Missouri, but she does overperform typically. What I would say is you never bet against Claire. Claire is a strong campaigner, good politician, but that being said, of all the races she had, I mean, you have to say Josh Hawley is probably the most credible candidate and opponent that she's had, certainly in recent history. So he's strong. I think that's the one, obviously, we all watch it in Missouri, but that's the one clearly the national audience is watching as well.
Todd, are you able to make this race just about Claire McCaskill, to make her have to sink or swim just on herself? And that's a hard place for any politician.
Yeah, I think the race is going to be about Claire McCaskill, but it's also going to be about hopefully soon to be Justice Kavanaugh. I mean,
How
that
does
is
she
a
vote?
galvanizing.
Any chance she votes for him?
She's not. I think there's a chance
Yeah, me too.
if she gets released and she sees the way it's going. Sure.
How does she vote on Kavanaugh?
I have a hard time believing she votes for him because I can't figure out, does that switch any votes for her? I don't think so.
I think she might vote for him. Sean Nicholson, does she vote for Kavanaugh?
I don't know. I think there's more to be learned in the Senate hearings. So
You had to guess right now. What do you think she does?
I honestly have no idea.
I don't think she'd be 50th, but she might be 52, right? I think she might be.
It's kind of perilous on both sides for her because it angers the progressives if she votes for him. So, the Bernie Sanders voter suddenly doesn't show up.
You know a lot about these ballot initiatives. There's 3 ballot initiatives on discussing medical marijuana. Can you give me the 10, 20 seconds on what that means?
Yeah, so it's complicated. So there's a low tax version, Amendment 2, that helps veterans. There's a high tax version that is Brad Bradshaw's proposal. And then there's a statutory measure which has some enabling language. So I think the public clearly supports good medical marijuana policy. I think the devil will be in the details, and I think ultimately at least Amendment 2 will be successful. We'll see on the rest.
Do all 3 pass?
I don't think all 3 pass.
One of the 3 pass, Victor?
Oh, one of the 3 will. I think also generally, even though this is the medical marijuana issue, I think in the last 20 years there's been a cultural shift in society and the view of marijuana. I think it's a far more benign view generally.
Sean Nicholson with a minute left. Who won the week?
I think Senator Rob Schaaf won the week. We talked a little bit about the veto session, what happened there. He used his last hours and his last days to talk about the bipartisan movement for reform, and that was very encouraging.
Who won the week?
Civility won the week. Governor Parsons and the legislature worked together and showed how it was done.
Senator Schultz, who won the week?
The people, legislature's out of session.
That's true. The people are saying. Who won the week?
Hey, I got to put on my party hat. The Republicans won the week because they are the legislature, they are the governor's office right now, and they work together.
I'm going to say one particular Republican in that legislature, Todd Richardson, this week, probably unless there's a special session, brought the end of his career in the House. No one's probably endured more craziness, no bizarre situation. I think he's been a very steady hand on the ship. And we'll see you next week. But before we go, in the meantime, check out our Show Me Missouri. We did Greene County last week, talked with Lincoln Huff, got to talk about the whole history of Greene County, maybe Lincoln County someday. And we'll see you next week on This Week in Missouri Politics.
This Week in Missouri Politics, sponsored by CFM Insurance, the Missouri Association of Career Fire Protection Districts, Spire, and Sterling Bank.
People that watch this show are the most top-level insiders on politics in the state of Missouri. If you want to stay up to date on everything that happens in politics from Sunday to Sunday, the things we talk about here, you can know everything about them by going to MissouriTimes.com. It is the source of information for Missouri news. If you're coming into the elections, you're talking legislative session, MissouriTimes.com. You can subscribe, get all the information sent right to your phone, or just keep up with us on Twitter and Facebook. Go to MissouriTimes.com. It's on the front of the desk. It's everything you need to know how to watch This Week in Missouri Politics. Be a top-informed insider. MissouriTimes.com.